ES Audio.
Get a cup of tea, have a biscuit, come up with a brilliant business idea. That's how lots of entrepreneurs went from the kitchen table to multi-million-pound success, or at least they say that's how it happened. But it's not how Biscuiteers started. The plan came first.
The ambition of the business was to create a whole new sector in gifting. I was really doing research into flowers, chocolates. Those are where we see our competitive set.
Harriet Hastings is the co-founder and MD of the company that began taking orders for its luxury biscuit gifts online in 2007. Now it's employing 180 people and just opened up a new US-based service. She's achieved that day one ambition, but it has not been easy.
Running a business, particularly as it gets bigger, as I've discovered, it becomes a great deal more stressful than it is at the beginning. The beginning bit, I think, is the fun bit. The more the business scales up, the greater the responsibility.
I'm David Marsden from the Evening Standard. Harriet will be appearing at our SME Expo, which is being held at XL London on April 25th and 26th. To find out more and get free tickets, go to smexpo.co.uk. She's going to be on a panel talking about managing increasing costs in business, which we'll also touch on in this show. But let's start with where she's talking to us from. The Biscuiteers HQ in London's Collier's Wood. They call it the Ministry of Biscuits. That's a great name for an office.
There is I suppose Willy Wonka is probably the most appropriate aspect to what we do. It's a mad business, really. We are hand icing at the moment 3 million biscuits a year here and building capacity to take that to 6 million biscuits. So we've taken the concept of an artisanal business and really trying to work out how to deliver that at scale.
How many biscuits did you do in your first year? Let's compare that to the 6 million.
I obviously don't know, but I would have thought the answer to that is, a few thousands. It took us quite a long time to get here. I mean, the interest was there right from the very beginning because we had the good fortune to be one of those businesses which was first to market with an idea. Obviously, that meant that there was a lot of interest in what we were doing. We were adopted very quickly, particularly, I think, by the sort of fashion media and indeed fashion companies as well who wanted to buy from us. Those were our very first biscuits that we were known for. We were doing sort of handbags and shoes and those kind of things. And that got us a lot of profile quite quickly. Yeah,
and I may be wrong here, so to correct me if I am, but I think the idea came first, didn't it? Because you're not a baker by trade, Harriet.
No, I'm a marketeer. That's what I am by trade, and that's what my career has been in. And it was literally that combination of the fact that my husband was in, if you like, the food space, the commercial food space. And I saw that there was an opportunity for food gifting. And I also saw there was an opportunity for sort of corporate branded gifting as well. So it was those two ideas that kind of came together, and also thought it wasn't being done very well. I think that's probably, in terms of that sort of solving a problem, I thought there was a lot of market and not a great deal of choice.
But it's one thing having the idea and it's another to go ahead with it. Isn't it? Was that a scary moment for you? Was that daunting? What were you thinking?
I think it wasn't as scary perhaps it should have been. I think I'm typical of particular kind of entrepreneurs I had left my full-time job because I had 4 children and I was finding that daunting at that point. And so I wasn't completely not working, but I was sort of working as a consultant really. And I think because I wasn't doing anything else, wasn't doing a big job at the time, it felt more like an opportunity. Do you know what I mean? It felt like I had less to lose than I perhaps might have done at a different stage in my life. But what I knew I wanted was a lot more kind of agency and control over my own time. And I think that's quite a common story among reasons why women particularly often decide that running their own business is a good life choice. And running a business, particularly as it gets bigger, as I've discovered, becomes a great deal more stressful than it is at the beginning. The beginning bit, I think, is the fun bit. The more the business scales up, the greater the responsibility. I think that is more daunting. But you do choose how, when and where you work. That matters, particularly if you have a young family.
When you made that step, when you decided to do it, it sounds like you did a lot of research beforehand. Did you put lots of hours into looking at the market, or did you just go, yeah, this will work?
I don't know if I put hours. I mean, I felt like I was in that market. I suppose that's partly. I felt like I understood the sort of people who might be my customers. And I understood who the players in that market were at the time. So you have to remember that people like Fortnum, so I suppose are the natural people you think about when you think about food gifting, didn't have a big e-commerce proposition at the time. And a big part of my idea was it was going to be an e-commerce platform. It was going to deliver a service as much as it was going to deliver a product.
So as you scale up, you start off as a small company, maybe just a handful of staff, but as you scale up, how do things change for you when you're moving from that kind of small business to a medium one to quite a large one now that the Biscuiteers is? What are the biggest challenges there?
I think the biggest challenges is you get into the kind of the big time stuff of, we're employing 180 people. That's a lot of people to be responsible for. And it means that like all businesses of our size, cash is king. I think worrying about, cash flow and making sure that, you've got what you need to kind of keep the business going. And for a business like ours, which has natural seasonality built into it, we're essentially having to make all of the investment in our stock in advance of being able to sell it, which puts pressure on things like cash flow. And the more the business grows, the more those problems are scaled up. That makes sense.
Were there ever any points when you thought we're expanding too fast, or even the opposite, we need to go faster?
If anything, I think that what I've learned is we should have gone faster, quicker.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I think it's partly because we didn't take any investment in the business for a very long time. And in retrospect, and I think probably because we valued all of the control in the business and running it. And I think that it limited a little bit, the kind of speed and acceleration, which I now see. So I do slightly regret that. We didn't get into this building, which has really enabled us to create that kind of operational scale until 2019. And we started the business in 2007. So, took a while.
So are you moving and making decisions much faster now? Is that what you learned from them? Because you've opened the site in the US now. You're starting to expand internationally. Was that a quick decision for you?
I think what I believe about the business is that, Biscuiteers is a very unique concept in the market. And it's still a very unique concept in the market and gifting market. The ambition of the business was to create a whole new sector in gifting. So we started, when you say what research was I doing, I was really doing research into flowers, chocolates. Those are where we see our competitive set. So anywhere that you might spend your money on the kind of things that we're selling gifts for, we're an occasion-led all year round gifting business is essentially what we are. The other thing that's interesting about it, it's not only unique in the UK, as far as we've been able to see, it's pretty unique around the world. The opportunity is obviously there. And the way that we're approaching it is the US was our biggest market. So it was the obvious thing was to have a sort of US facing site, which is very new for us because we already organically had got quite a few customers in the US. So there was sort of natural affinity. Also, we have 2 icing cafes in London. It's quite interesting. It kind of helps you to see where there is a lot of kind of really intense sort of enthusiasm for what we're doing.
That's really interesting. So those physical sites, which as an online retailer, which you were, those physical sites have made quite a big difference to you then. They've worked as marketing vehicles, I suppose.
That was always the intention. So we're the absolute opposite, I suppose, from a company that was, if you like, traditionally high street retail and put up a website. We're an e-commerce company who saw that having a bricks and mortar site would add value in terms of brand and marketing in a way that, because it is challenging, I think, to be pure online, and so the way I see the shops, I see them as 365-day piece of out-of-home advertising. Now, I mean, not only that, but, they're very much marketing hubs, and we see them as sort of customer acquisition points, experiential ways to kind of really understand the brand, and also marketing hubs. So we use them for influencer events. We use them, we've got, somebody coming in to film in there this week. It's sort of constant focus, because it really brings the brand to life. And I also think I really noticed when we opened the first one, which was the hardest decision, I felt that the brand was elevated by the fact of having a shop in a kind of key London location changed people's attitudes towards the brand. It gave it kind of more substance. We weren't just a website. Yeah,
and you clearly put a lot of thought into how those stores would look, didn't you? Because they have quite spectacular frontage, and then you go in and it's all very, very lovely in there, isn't it? How much were you thinking about what does Biscuiteer look like in a physical form?
I mean, I would say, so two parts. The illustrated look, which is part of the way and the very sort of unique way that we approach our packaging, because gifting is about the 360 experience, the whole thing. And so the very wonderful illustrator that we work with all the time came and did the illustrations for the front. When it came to the inside, I have to say, my husband and I pretty much designed it on the back of an envelope, the first one, because that was pretty much what budgets allowed in those days. But it was fine. I mean, it sort of evolved, but the black and white look that was created around it is also partly because we have a very colourful product, and so that's a good way to kind of showcase it. I think the other big decision though was that we just weren't sure that you could just have a biscuit shop and it would pay its way. So what we did was we came up with this concept of the icing cafe. Basically, the shops have multi-income streams, really, because we have a school of icing is based in both shops, and we do kids' parties and afternoon teas, and we have a cafe, and we do, and we're a biscuit boutique. Biscuit boutiques were a rare concept. There was an element of customer education, because it's like what you want people to understand is these are gifts. They are beautiful gifts, and they're priced accordingly. They're not really designed, for you to just, they're not like a box of digestives or something. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of, because we were first into the market, there is that element of saying we want everybody to think about ice biscuits as a much more personalised, stylish way of gifting. A really interesting alternative to just sending another bunch of flowers.
Obviously, I'm now going to have a biscuit. Maybe you should too. While you do that, have a listen to some adverts and hit the follow button on your podcast provider so you never miss an episode of How to Be a CEO. How important have partnerships been with you in terms of accelerating the growth of Biscuiteers?
When you say partnerships, there's different bits. We have what we call corporate sales. So and that's quite a big part of our business. So we sell directly to corporates, and that would be designs of bespoke designs. So they could be fashion designs, they could be logos, they could be anything really. But I think that is both a legitimate business model, but also there is no question that being associated with luxury brands, absolute sort of world-beating luxury brands, obviously is a great way to kind of enhance your own brand. What we also do is we also have always done a lot of partnerships with usually with British brands like ours, so people with whom we feel that Biscuiteers has a natural affinity, where there is likely to be a crossover of customer base. We would consider that part of our marketing. Every month we will be doing sort of tie-ups, and then we also do product tie-ups. So for instance, we did one last year, and we will this year. We have a partnership with Emma Bridgewater for Mother's Day. We will do Emma Bridgewater designs as biscuits. We had a partnership with Sophie Conran at Christmas when we were doing an advent calendar together. So sometimes it goes further, it can go into product, and sometimes it's pure marketing partnerships.
Who goes to who first then? Do you go out and go, we're doing this and it's going to work for your business? Or did you find people going, could you do something for us? We've got this idea. What comes first? I
think it started with people approaching us. And I think then now, because we do more of it, and it's a more sort of, if you like, formal approach to how we do it, we sometimes approach other brands and say, would you like to work with us? I think the most important thing is that there is a sort of nice crossover of audience, and it feels like it's a good fit. We work with a lot of other sort of entrepreneur-led brands as well for the same reason. I also think at a sort of broader level, SMEs supporting each other is a really good thing. It's a really effective way to do marketing without just spending it in a kind of paid base. It's like PR as well, often underestimated. Those kind of marketing channels are really, really valuable in terms of getting businesses going and growing.
Was that quite a nice surprise for you when you got the first kind of invite to do business with a partner? Were you going, oh, I never thought of this? Or what happened there?
Well, it was amazing actually, because we launched Biscuiteers in September 2007. And by that Christmas, we were doing a whole range of effectively corporate orders for PR agencies, fashion brands, And the reason that happened is because we did a lot of PR. So my view is you get out there, you shout about what you're doing, and that is the quickest way to get people to pick up the phone to you if it's interesting enough from people. And that's very much how we did it. We didn't have budgets, paid budgets like we do now. So we very much lent into PR as being the way in which we told people about what we were doing. The first year, I think it was the first year we were doing, Mulberry and Burberry and, and brands like that. And yes, there is obviously a kind of rolling element of, sort of being, the new people on the block with the new idea, new way of approaching it. And that brought Selfridges to us as well, actually, because we didn't even think we wanted to do wholesale when we started. But within 3 months, Selfridges came knocking on the door and we've been with them ever since. So, I think you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I just think you have to be quite open-minded when you start something like this.
Do PR people make good entrepreneurs?
Okay, so I'll ask the question in a slightly different way. I believe, particularly in consumer businesses, that, and particularly in SMEs, that marketing is the single most important sort of skill set. Because in the end, that's what you're doing. You're selling all the time, aren't you? You're selling and you're marketing. And if you can have the most brilliant product in the world, but if people don't know about it and you can't people to come and get it. And I think what sometimes happens is that the product comes first and then the marketing. And I think that's the wrong way around. The two things should always go hand in hand. Because I very much, that's partly because of my background and what I was trained in, we really look at everything we do in Biscuiteers through a marketing lens. We know that, our fundamentally biggest task is to, we've got a great product, we've got a very loyal customer base, but we have to get more customers to discover us all the time. That's our challenge in the consumer space.
And you've got that challenge now stepping into that US market. You said earlier that a lot of your kind of branded stuff was based on British brands. Is that going to continue in the States? Because a lot of people in America quite like a bit of British brand, but are you going to evolve it to include kind of US brands, US names, things familiar to people over there?
I mean, to be honest, we are thinking about how we're going to approach this, but the things that we will definitely do early on is actually to look at partnerships in the same way that we've done in the UK, because obviously a lot of people are operating in the UK also have American arms. So that's a very good way for us to get in front of some new kind of American customers. We'll also do PR. So I've got an American company coming to film in this week. So those kind of ways are a good way to us to get our foot in the market, to test it. And then I'm sure we will look at the paid route as well, because we will have to. It's an exciting market. I think but average basket size, sizes, for instance, are much higher in the US than they are in the UK. So, they're very good customers. What we're also doing is from a wholesale perspective, we're now actively working with more wholesalers outside the UK as a really good way to get a positioning in that market and to understand those markets better. But also once you open up your kind of wholesale opportunities, outside of the UK, it's a huge, obviously it's a limitless market and very exciting.
Is it going to affect the way, because Biscuiteers kind of handles everything all by itself, doesn't it? It does the manufacturer, does the supply, does all the retail. Is it going to affect the way that the company does that? Is everything still going to come from the Ministry of Biscuits?
In the short term, yes, because we have built a lot of sort of operational capacity here. And obviously that's in the simpler way to do it right now. We also we can ship very, very quickly. We can ship to the East Coast in America in 2 days. So it's not difficult to fulfill from here. Obviously, if we get to the point where you either run out of sort of either operational space here or manage to create a market that was big enough to justify it, you could then, the obvious thing would be to start manufacturing locally. But at the moment, I would say, we're just not at that stage. We're testing markets right now and trying to work out, where our biggest opportunities lie.
It's obviously quite a big logistical challenge. Do you enjoy that side of running a business like this now that you're moving international? You're going global.
Do I enjoy that? I think, well, naturally, I enjoy product a lot. I've always enjoyed creating product and have sort of led that here. And sales and marketing, yes, absolutely enjoy that. I think my husband, who works with me in the business, has been much more on the kind of operational side of it. I mean, I've worked with a lot of, large businesses in my time, and it's not something that I particularly enjoy. And I think the reason for that is that, the business is still small and can behave like an entrepreneurial business. And the great joys of these kind of businesses, you can make decisions and change quickly. And I'm reasonably sort of impatient person. When you've got an idea or you want to do something, or you said, to be able to affect change is one of the great joys of working in these kind of businesses. I mean, it's not for everybody, but if you enjoy that, I think you can have a lot of impact in a business like this. And I think for a lot of people in their working lives, that's what they enjoy, is feeling that they're actually having a tangible effect on what's happening on a day-to-day basis.
So no regrets about launching.
I mean, the thing I always say is to say, do you still enjoy it? I've been working for a long time, and if I hadn't come and done this, and that's partly because the market changes so quickly, digital marketing changes annually. I mean, it's incredible, what the learning curve in terms of where that's going. And also, as you alluded to, the kind of logistical challenges of what we're trying to achieve. And currently there are considerable logistical challenges getting, product into the EU and things. There's always problems to solve, and I enjoy solving problems. So yes, I have really enjoyed, and I also feel that it's an act of creativity, building a business. So that's, interesting too.
And just quickly, and with the disclaimer that clearly you have no favourite brands, everybody's all treated equally. Has there been a biscuit, a product or something that you've seen and gone, oh, that's so good, I'm so proud to have been behind this?
Yeah, there's been a few things, odd ones we've done. We did a few years ago build Waddesdon House as a massive gingerbread house. We built all the rooms like a sort of giant doll's house. But we did in icing all the tapestries, all the paintings, the furniture, the whole thing. I mean, it wasn't just the outside of the house, it was the inside of the house. And I did look at that and go, that is absolute art. Because the guys, and I would like to give them a shout out, the icers who work here, they're artists. It is an art form, what we do, and that's what we're selling. And that was a sort of at a very, high end. So I remember that was amazing. And in fact, more recently, the Christian Dior experience at Harrods, which was extraordinary. And then we were supplying all of the biscuits, which were very, very beautiful, bespoke, and very, hand-iced biscuits. And we were struggling to keep them in stock. But, just to see how much, and the kind of impact they made was amazing. So to get the opportunity to do things like that is great for everybody. Oh, and then I would also say my guys love, we've just started supplying Warner Brothers Studios with Harry Potter biscuits, which probably caused more excitement in the business. Finally, we get to ice Harry Potter.
That was Harriet Hastings from Biscuiteers. For more interviews, news and analysis, check out standard.co.uk/business or pick up the Evening Standard newspaper. How to Be a CEO is back on Monday morning. We'd love to see you then.